Hi everyone, it's Ali for the Scrapbook Store with a video using the Crafty Turnabout stamp from Concord and Ninth. I do love the Turnabout stamps, they're so much fun, and I'll share a few tips and tricks with you of my own for when you use these stamps. So I'm going to use obviously the stamp set, and I have marked mine off with a permanent marker with an X on the back using the guide, but you can get an alignment guide pack now, which does mean that you don't have to mark on your stamp if you don't want to do that. But I'm just going to show you the way I did it when I originally got the stamp set. So I'm just going to, what you do when you get your stamp set is carefully remove it from the backing sheet. And I didn't always do this, and you can see I've made a small tear in my stamp set, so please be careful when you're removing your stamps from the backing sheet. They are on there really securely. And I've marked my stamp off using the guide. I would recommend using some Sizzix sticky grid sheets. I made a template using this sticky grid sheets, and these are so handy just for normal stamping. Just as an aside, I also have a little piece put on some acetate that I use in my MISTI for other stamping, not for the turnabout stamps. And it just helps me secure paper in my MISTI really easily, and then I can stamp like off the edges or anywhere on that paper in the magnets. I don't need to use them, they don't get in the way. But anyway, I've made a template for using in my MISTI, and I'm going to line up my stamp with that and then push the drawer of my MISTI down onto the stamp to take it up. And then I keep that guide in my MISTI, which is the sticky grid sheet, and then I can just put my piece of paper on there. And I'm using a powder tool first because I'm going to use some Versamark ink because I'm going to do the Emboss Resist Technique with this particular card. So I'm just inking up my stamp with the Versamark ink and pressing it down fairly firmly. I usually stand up and give it a decent press. Then I'm just turning my template one turn, and I go anti-clockwise, but you can go either clockwise or anti-clockwise, and stamping and pressing again, turning it, and so on. So you continue to do this. I've done this 4 times to cover my whole piece of paper with images, and I haven't, the Versamark ink's really great. It stays quite wet throughout this, so you don't need to do embossing in between. You can do all your stamping, then gently take it off the sticky grid sheet, and then go ahead and put the embossing powder on it. And I've used a white embossing powder here. So just gently sprinkle that over the piece that you've just stamped with your Versamark ink, and gently tap off any excess, and just have a careful look and take away any little bits of powder that are stuck to where they shouldn't be. Then I'm just going to heat that with my heat tool and make sure that it is all well melted, the embossing powder, and that you don't miss any patches, which is quite easy to do when you're just doing white on white. Now I've got my Festive Berries and Squeezed Lemonade Distress Oxide inks, and also my brushes from Tailored Expression brushes, which are really fantastic, and do love using them. They're really easy to get a really nice blend, especially with your oxide inks, because they do blend so nicely. Then I'm going to go in with the Squeezed Lemonade and cover the remaining patches on my card, and I just sort of go over the pink slightly so that the colours are really nicely blended together. And because it's such quite a busy background, you can't really see any harsh edges anyway, so it's quite a nice technique. You don't have to be too particular. I'm just removing any excess ink with a paper towel and wiping it off my Tim Holtz glass media mat as well, which is my surface of choice. I always use my media mat. Now I've just stamped some of the stamps from the set onto some vellum, again with my Versamark ink, and I've white embossed them. And I'm going to just back that piece with a piece of coloured cardstock, just because if I didn't have the coloured cardstock behind the vellum, it got lost in the busyness of the pattern a little bit. So I've just adhered that to my background piece. Now I'm going to use some roller glue and just adhere that onto the front of my card. And I just decided that behind the stamped sentiments, I would just put a little bit more adhesive just to keep it stuck down, and you can't really see it too much if it's directly behind the sentiments that you've stamped. And then just fold over the vellum over the back of the card. And now I'm going to adhere that onto the front of a white cardstock and trim it down a little bit, because as you can see it's just slightly shorter than Australian standard card size there. So I'm just going to adhere that on and just trim off the excess with my paper trimmer. So now I'm going to use the Crafty dies, which are so cute. I just love those scissors. But because this sentiment had, you have my stamp of approval, I've used the little stamp and the scissors on the front of this particular card. So I've just die cut those out, and I'm just going to adhere them onto the front of the card as well, just to finish it off. And as I said, I just adore those scissors. They were the main reason I bought these die set. I just love those cute little scissors. And so I'm just going to adhere those die pieces on. Very easy to construct and put together. There's nothing complex about these dies. And then just cross them over and adhere those together as well to make the cute little pair of scissors. And just adhering all those elements onto the front of the card to finally finish it off. And so you saw at the beginning of the video that I've actually made another one of these cards using some more Distress Oxide colours, and I just love the Emboss Resist technique. It's so easy, really quick, and it gives such a lovely effect. And then you don't have to fiddle around with changing colours on your Turnabout stamp as well. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks very much for joining me, and we'll see you again next time.